One love, God bless. Fire Nelson here, and today I'm here to talk to you about how suffering helps us suffer less. So, a lot of people, when they hear this, they sometimes get confused. How is it possible that suffering will help us suffer less? If we're suffering, how is it going to help us at all? But lots of times in life, we get put through these tests that make us suffer so that when bigger tests come along or similar tests come along and we're already in the midst of receiving a blessing, we don't mess up the blessing that's coming. Sometimes suffering helps us be able to handle life and the situations that come with life in a different way, so that instead of us just suffering, it's not multiple people suffering. Sometimes we suffer so that we don't have to make others suffer later for something that we have done or something that we don't know or we've never suffered from. We have to realize that suffering itself isn't always what people normally think of as suffering. We fast so that we can suffer less. So we stop eating and we only consume fluids so that our body has a break and it's not suffering as much. We may be suffering, by us being hungry, but we suffer so that we suffer less in the long run. We suffer so that we don't have to suffer from ailments and things like this that get clogged up in the body and make the body act in a way of dis-ease. So we suffer less. This is what I mean by we suffer so we suffer less. We try to embrace life for what it is in the moment that we can, especially if it's something that we know we can handle and get out of. Because there's going to be lots of different situations in life where we feel like we can't handle and get out of. And we're going to have to remember those times where we suffered and remember how we felt during those times and how we were able to conquer those situations. And that memory is going to help push us through to the point we need to get to. See, right now, we want to suffer because unless you're already perfectly aligned and perfectly in your divine path, if you're like me right now, you have time to still make a few mistakes. You have time to still do some learning and growing before life gets super serious, We still have time always to do growing and to self-learning. And sometimes doing that is going to take you on a journey where it's going to cause you to suffer. I mean, Jesus had to die on a cross for him to be able to let others suffer less. Jesus had to suffer for it, and his life had to be taken. And it's not the point of his life being taken that he was scared of. It was just before your life is actually taken and brought to the Most High, there is suffering that occurs. And not for everybody. I'm not saying this is something that's universal for everybody. I'm saying what happened to Jesus was he had to endure so much suffering just for us to be forgiven for our sufferings and our sins so that we don't have to suffer as much. So we have to realize sometimes we have to suffer less. Sometimes we have to fast. Sometimes we have to not eat that candy. Sometimes we have to go exercise, go on a run. Sometimes we have to do things, read, meditate for 25 minutes. Sometimes we have to do things that we think are suffering, but really it's helping us so that we suffer less. See, suffer is just, it's just a word, a title that I can say that you can relate to. But really, once you realize life and you realize how beautiful life is and how things work and how, the Most High is always working for our greatest good. Once you realize these things, you realize there is no suffering. It's just our mind playing tricks on us, trying to make us think that we're suffering. But once we get out of this, Maya, this illusion that we're suffering, then we can see the beauty of life. But until we do the work, we're always going to kind of feel like it's suffering. We're always going to be like, oh, you want me to meditate for 25 minutes? You want me to read for an hour? You want me to read the Bible cover to cover? You want me to journal every day? You want me to pray every day, 3 times a day? I could go on. You want me to exercise? You want me to stop eating meat? You want me to, wear aluminum free deodorant? You want me to go outside and with my shoes off, my sock? We think of so many ways of stuff being good for us as suffering, and it's not your fault. I want to tell you that first and foremost, that it's not your fault that if you struggle with these things as well. It's that society pushes this onto us of a generation of instant gratification, where these acts of reading and exercising and journaling and doing meditations, these acts where it's sometimes takes a little bit longer for you to realize the benefits of these practices, we give up on them within the first couple days. And I used to be guilty of this as well, but once I realized the instant gratification was such a killer of you achieving your true life, your true destiny, your true purpose, and your true happiness and serenity in a constant way, once I realized that instant gratification is the only thing stopping us from feeling this at all times, I realized how great things that don't always give you instant gratification are, like journaling and reading and meditating, especially meditating. And meditating now has switched, a long time ago, but it has switched to a point of you get instant gratification from meditating. You can feel everything that you were just thinking of before, and you have all this to do, but when you're doing your spiritual practices, all that just drifts away. You don't think about that stuff anymore, and time just expands, and before you know it, it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, or before you know it, it's only 5 minutes and you feel like it's 20 minutes, whether if you are in a time crunch and can only meditate for 5 minutes. But you want to realize that sometimes we have to do these things. We have to discipline ourselves and suffer so that we can suffer less in the future. Sometimes we have to cut out these instant gratifications of TV and of being on your phone and going to this party, and suffer and feel like we're missing out, and feel like we're not using this time to watch our show and binge watch and finish our show. And sometimes we have to feel like we're suffering so that we don't suffer in the future as much, because if we suffer now, we suffer less later. And it's very simple. It doesn't have to be complex. When I think about it and I was trying to put some words to it, you can't really put a bunch of words to it. It's simple. It's just as simple as that when you build discipline spiritually, mentally, physically, you don't have to exercise. You don't have to, do every single thing that's on the spiritual list. You don't have to go vegan. You don't have to go to churches, and you don't have to read the Bible. But when you start building these disciplines as much as you can, you will see a difference in your life. You will see that when situations come up, you're able to handle them in a different way. And instead of you feeling so much like you're suffering, because more situations are going to come up that you're going to have to suffer from, financial, relationship-wise, family-wise, your own health-wise, mentally and physically. There's going to be more things that come up in your life, and you're going to want to be able to handle them well. And once you're building these spiritual practices and you're becoming more awakened, you're becoming more into that chosen path, into your divinity, you're going to be able to handle these things in a much better, in a much more productive, in a much more healing way, so that you're able to be healed quicker, better, and you'll be feeling like a brand new person. We have to realize that there's always room to grow. We should never, ever, ever stop growing. I don't care what age you are. I don't care what wealth status you are. I don't care about any of that. We should always keep growing internally. Yeah, you can learn more about your crafts, or you can learn more about whatever area of knowledge that you want to learn. But we need to be reading spiritual books. We need to be reading, books written by other spiritual people and yogis and monks and all type of free thinkers. We should be reading holy books. We should be constantly building these spiritual practices, because eventually we're going to think of it as not as suffering. We're going to think of it as not as a boring task, mundane task that's taken away from your TV time. When you're learning and when you're bettering yourself, you're not suffering. When you're doing a fast for, a week or a month, you're not suffering. You're bettering yourself. You're making yourself whole again. You're coming closer to the Most High. You're coming closer to the source. So we have to realize that it's not suffering. We just say it's suffering, but it's so that we suffer less later. Obviously we could be doing something different with our time than meditating for an hour or, journaling or reading. But who says that that's a better way to spend our time? Oh, because it makes you more money? I know tons of people that are rich that, hate their life. I know tons of people that are rich who can't even go to the grocery store, can't even find time to go to the grocery store, is what they say. I mean, I feel like if you're rich, you have plenty of time, but these are the prisons that just thinking that money's going to solve everything does to your head. These are the prisons where it takes you, and it is dangerous if you let money be your love, let your money be your idol, because it's not going to bring you peace. It's not going to bring you serenity. It's not going to bring you happiness. Discipline, suffering, and being grateful and being humble is what's going to bring you happiness. Being righteous is what's going to bring you happiness. Doing your spiritual practices and learning knowledge within is going to bring you happiness. Knowing thyself is going to bring you happiness. And once you align with this, everything else is going to start aligning. You may be homeless now, but as long as you're doing the spiritual work, trust me, you're going to get out of your situation and be better off than you ever have been, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Being spiritually aligned is not just about you learning inner work that's going to just, increase just your mental and your spirit. It's going to increase in your physical life as well. The book, How to Get Rich, doesn't just talk about how to get rich. It talks mainly about your mindset. So when you have that positive mindset, when you have the mindset of wanting to grow, wanting to learn more, whatever situation you're struggling through, you're going to find a book perfectly for that. You're going to find a podcast perfectly for that. And then you're going to be able to use your spiritual practices to hone in on the stuff you learned from that book or that podcast or that YouTube video and manifest those things into your own essence, and so that they are able to be used as tools that are actually useful for you to get out of the situation you're in, whether it's financially, whether it's, relationships, whether it's family, whether it's health, in any type of situation. You want to excel at your career, or you want to just go live in the woods. There's going to be tools, there's going to be resources to help you, guide you to be able to find people and information that you're going to be able to use. But you're going to have to realize that it's going to take you being disciplined and suffering to be able to do these things 9 times out of 10. It's not going to just happen out the blue. We can't just make stuff happen just by wishful thinking. It's going to take divine action. It's going to take you surrendering to the universe. It's going to take you listening and being guided in certain ways and directions where you thought that, oh, wait, I thought I was supposed to be guided this way. Are you sure this is the way? Is it righteous? Then you're going. Maybe that way was a cutting corner way, and you might had a scam this person a little bit and lie here and there, and and you knew that you might have to do that. So no, the Most High is going to take you through a righteous way, because the plan that you are manifesting, the plan that you are stating in your meditations, in your prayers, in your affirmations, this plan, if it's out of a righteous place, then the Most High is going to direct you in a different way than the Most High has ever directed you. Maybe a lot of the other stuff didn't work out because you didn't have a righteous way of thinking about it. But if you're doing stuff with an intention of not only helping yourself, but helping a wider spectrum of people and, cultures and traditions and races and whatever, like, of course, your dream doesn't have to be that big. But if you're working towards something that's going to help somebody else other than yourself, then the Most High is going to work with you expeditiously. I don't know if I said that right. The Most High is going to work with you in an extreme way to truly push that dream into reality. The Most High is always, always, always going to support what is righteous and always going to fail what is evil. Sometimes it just takes time for the evil things to fail. Sometimes it takes time for Babylon to fall. But trust me, all these things come to pass. The righteous get rightful fruit. The evil get evil fruit. Righteous things follow the righteous man. Evil things follow the evil man. These people who are stuck in their evil ways, yeah, they're doing evil to different people, but trust me, their life is hell as well. These people that are stuck in their righteous ways and actually living good and feeling the positivity of the Most High, trust me, positive, crazy miracles, blessings, all types of things follow these people as well. If you truly live and you truly switch your mindset, you truly try to focus on the positive of things more than you focus on the negative. I'm talking just 90% of your day positive. You can have 10% of, judgment, negative thoughts, this and that. But we try to not even have those. The 10% really is just some self-work. You realize you feel a little insecure here. You feel a little anger here. You feel a little, quick temper here. You feel a little judgment here. That's what the 10% is. It's not us letting stuff happen. It's just that stuff accidentally, we feel emotions still. We're still human. We're not perfect. We're still a work in progress. We're still healing. So we want to make sure that our days are 90% positive and righteous and not lying, not judging, not gossiping, not filling our days with a bunch of, drama and, TikTok madness and Instagram madness and, just dumb vegetable entertainment. We want to make sure that we are restricting ourselves and disciplining ourselves and suffering so that we suffer less later. It may seem like we're suffering that we can't scroll on TikTok for an hour or 3 hours or 12 hours or all these things people do, but eventually you will stop craving those. I'm telling you, you will be able to get off your phone and you'll be happy you did it, and you'll be able to feel your energy drain from being on the phone. You'll be like, okay, that was a different feeling than how I've been feeling the past few days. We have to do these practices. We have to discipline ourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually so that we can suffer now and suffer less later. We don't want to pass down these anxieties, these depressions, these insecurities, these limitations, these feelings of lack, these feelings of greed, these selfish actions, these perverse thoughts. We don't want to pass these illnesses, these ailments, these sicknesses, these disabilities, they said limitations. So I'm gonna stop there. We don't want to pass all this stuff down into our family, into our kids, into our kids' kids. We don't want to pass this stuff down. We want to get rid of this stuff. We want to suffer now so that we can suffer less and others will suffer less. We don't want to be flipping out on our kids just because they spilled milk. We don't want to be abusive. We don't want to be, demanding. We don't want to be judgmental. We don't want to have a separation of communication from our family and our children. And I know a lot of people deal with this every single day. And we don't want this. We have to realize this. Even if you're living in this now, you have to come to the realization that you don't want this. That's not what you want. You don't want to be separated from your family, not be able to talk to your family, a whole half of your family you barely talk to. That's not whatever we want, you know? We want unity. We want unconditional love. And sometimes we have to be that example. Sometimes we have to be that one that suffers and is that positive light that people are rolling their eyes at and are saying they're cuckoo and crazy. And we have to continue to be that example. We have to continue to hold that power of the Most High and know that just like Jesus did and suffered for our sins, we can suffer for the awakening of the Most High's people. We can suffer for helping our family not be so sick mentally, physically, and spiritually. Because we can see it. The more that we awake, we can see the sickness in them. We can see the evil spirits in them. We can see the evil mindsets in them. And we know it's not them. We know that they just need to connect with the Most High so that that's the only spirit in them, the Holy Spirit. And it's going to be very hard if we don't suffer sometimes. It's going to be very hard if we don't show them that we're human sometimes. It's going to be very hard if we don't have examples and different situations to be able to explain, oh no, I've been through this too. I felt those thoughts of suicide too. I felt those thoughts of wanting to, just hurt people too. I felt those thoughts of giving up and just drinking and doing drugs too. But with the power and the faith of the Most High, I was able to get out of that. There's always been a power of goodness within me that I have heard the voice of, but I never knew that that's what that was. I always just thought that I didn't, I didn't sway that way. I didn't rock that way. I didn't, some people were down to rob people. I wasn't down to rob people. Some people were down to steal. I didn't really want to steal. Some people were down to, sell crack to people for a bunch of money. It's never been me. It's never been me. So there's a reason. And even if you are some of those people, there's a reason why you're thinking differently now, because there's a reason why you're watching this video. It's because you're thinking differently, because you're taking life into a different mindset, different mind state. You're thinking about life in a different way, in a different plane. You're no longer just thinking about the 3D. Now you're coming to the 5D. And that's what we need to do. That's what we need to do. We need to always think in the 5D, not so much the 3D. The 3D is just, bricks and mortar and lack and limitation and, false truths. But what is true is what's in the 5D, what's in our spirit, what's in our mind, body, and spirit as one. So connect with that inner source, connect with that divine being. Suffer now so you have to suffer later. Because there's always going to be suffering, suffering. But really, with every suffering is a blessing. And it's not really suffering. It's just us coming into a new season of our life, into a new transition of our life. So suffer now so you can suffer less. Do the meditation, do reading, stay away from toxic friends, stay away from toxic sites, stay away from toxic apps, eat healing foods, fast, pray every single day, 3 times a day, meditate at least once a day or twice a day if you can. Go on walks, just do what you need to do. And eventually this so-called suffering won't feel like suffering. The FOMO that you have, you'll no longer have it. You won't fear missing out. Instead, you'll be like, wow, I wish everybody could come here. And it sucks that they can't. Because I'm having a deep meditation. I'm having a deep journaling session. I'm reading some good wisdom. And that's how I feel. So good luck on your journey. If you haven't, please subscribe, like, comment, share. And trust me, you are blessed. Trust me, you can live a blessed, righteous life. You don't have to cut corners. You don't have to be evil. You don't have to cheat people. You don't have to live in greed and lack. You aren't ugly. You aren't hideous. You aren't unspecial. You aren't untalented. You aren't stupid. You aren't fat. You aren't any of these things that people say to you. You're just going through something right now. And sometimes we have to suffer, so we suffer less. And it's only going to be suffering less later if we're doing the spiritual work to realize why we're suffering now, so that we can fix those problems. So suffer now so that you can suffer less later. And so your family and your kids and your kids' kids don't have to suffer either. Build that spiritual wealth. Build that mental and physical wealth. And everything else will fall in line. Trust me. You will be wealthy. You'll be abundant. You'll be blessed in more ways than you could ever count. So suffer now so that we can suffer less later. And suffering is only an illusion. One love.